Amongst the strongest in Jujutsu Kaisen, independence and selfishness drowns all who seek the apex of the world. They do not care about anything except their self-interest and are stronger for it. So much so that it has become the standard for how to become a disgusting powerhouse. This idea breeds a notion that the selfless have no place encroaching on the powerful, but one man stands in opposition to this. This man is Yuta Okkotsu, the cursed child. Yuta Okkotsu is a lonely kid who hasn't had friends in a long time since his childhood crush, whose unfortunate passing results in a curse being placed upon him. His wish for death because of the curse left to him leads him down a path of isolation and grief that he cannot begin to maneuver through or get past. He lacks a clear way forward, so Gojo's offer to help uncover a road ahead is too tempting to pass up. Yuta steps into a world that he doesn't understand with people who do not understand him and vice versa. Essentially, it's from one foreign place to another. No one in normal society could grasp what made him so different, and now the same persisted. Maki's aggression, Inumaki's language barrier, and Panda's surface level nice guy approach make it hard for Yuta to gain any sense of footing. He's not able to find any common ground because he's not trying to find any. Yuta's passive nature is what results in the odds at which he stands. He's quick to scare and even quicker to doubt his own capabilities, until Maki asks for his purpose. To be a sorcerer, a desire for committing your life to sorcery is crucial to the job. For Okkotsu, his desire is a need to keep on living, to move past seeing himself as an unfortunate player in the world. This particular interaction is what builds Maki and Yuta's connection into the centerpiece for Yuta's character. Inumaki, Panda, and Gojo's connection do not matter as much as Maki for Yuta during this arc because of their differences and how they influence one another. Maki is aggressive, driven, and wants to prove herself. Yuta is passive, indecisive, and in need of guidance. He is innately talented while she is innately talentless. Their dynamic is what pushes forward Yuta's individual growth from his assertion to chase his reason for enrolling in Jujutsu High to having the confidence to understand Inumaki. Maki sparks his heart once again with this one interaction. Later on, he does the same thing when he speaks to her about her goal of taking over the Zenin clan and her lack of curse energy. This interaction serves as sort of a role reversal of the first because Yuta cheers on Maki here, making her feel the slightest bit accepted even if by someone she recently befriended. A sentiment that carries far more meaning than just friendship, as someone blessed like Yuta sees her as a friend, an equal, rather than an inferior. Geto is the perfect final opponent for Okkotsu. In every situation, he's felt well out of his depth because he did not understand the full extent of his capabilities. Of the 3 curses he's fought, each has been stronger than the last, and he's been able to handle them much better than the last. He has an innate talent for Jujutsu. This is meant to represent how proper training, paired with the correct mindset and innate talent, can skyrocket one's own abilities. His fight against Geto is a testament of this. His strong desire mixes well with his inexperience, demonstrating how much power he has and how poorly he handles it. Yet he stands on his word to see his resolve through by any means necessary. Okkotsu is a bright light thought to be shrouded in darkness by his own internal turmoil, a stark contrast to Geto's light being snuffed out by the darkness birthed within his soul through his isolation. They're meant to be similar, building a connection in the final battle. However, Yuta pushes past his darkness to walk the road outstretched in front of him. In breaking Rika's curse, he breaks free of his isolation and self-inflicted wounds. This arc at its core serves to alleviate his personal weakness. It shows that to overcome one's own despair, you have to confront it with your own 2 hands and wrestle it until you've won. The next time Yuta comes back into the spotlight is when he's tasked to execute his junior Yuji Itadori. The 2 of them were set up in mirrored circumstances, but the difference is how they handle what landed them there. Okkotsu can control his curse, but Yuji cannot. One is a protector and the other is a liability. This short battle between them gives a sneak peek into how Yuta has developed as a person, his approach to fighting, and his dedication to his word. These 2 arcs serve as the first half of Okkotsu's character. He grows into a promising young sorcerer given his innate talent as well as his mindset. His shift from his wild, spiky hair to a slicked back, tame cut represents his control not only of his emotions, but his power too. He's come far from a scared child with a lot of potential, and nowhere would that be more apparent than the Sendai colony. Determined to fulfill his mission, Okkotsu enters the Culling Games to face off against 4 combatants who lay out not only his full strength, but much more about himself. Deruve, Kururushi, Uro, and Ryu represent 4 different pieces of Yuta's character. Deruve, while an off-screen kill, is a reminder of where Yuta's journey began with the first cursed spirit he fought in Volume 0, as shown by their replicated sitting position, wall-eyedness, and relatively easy dispatch. Deruve shows Yuta's improvement in sorcery. The other 3 represent his past, present, and future. Uro represents his overcoming the past. She is far too fixated on her history because of the Fujiwaras, while Yuta learns from his past to become more resolute and stronger. Yuta's criticism of Uro's way of life is him talking down to himself in a way. As someone who cursed himself and felt wronged for reasons he could not understand, Yuta secluded himself, wallowing in self-pity, until he was lifted by others and given a chance to resolve a hardship in his life. When he points out the problems with Uro's lifestyle and how he cannot understand her, he is speaking from the perspective of someone who's experienced such loneliness. Uro is supposed to be pitied because of her betrayal at the hands of the Fujiwaras, and her inability to move beyond that leads to her generational hatred of anyone related to them. However, she could move on from this because she has the power to do so, but her reluctance to do so makes her a representation of Yuta's weakness of character and stagnation throughout his youth. Kururushi is a representation of the present, and by extension, Rika, a monster that Yuta should have feared until he learned to contain and defeat it. Kururushi as a cursed spirit shares a similar representation within Sendai Colony as Rika when she appeared. Not to say that it is as powerful a curse as Rika, but the problem it caused for the colony is. Ryu and Uro see it as a particularly nasty opponent, and with its threat level serves as a piece in the 4-way deadlock in Sendai. Essentially, it is an abnormally strong cursed spirit, similar to Rika. There are also similar sketches in between chapters depicting Rika and Kururushi with blood dripping from their mouths, to further cement this connection. Yuta's messy handling of this modern-day Black Devil is a sign of his present state as a sorcerer who can handle and control more dangerous threats. Ryu's want resonates with Yuta. A good fight brought him back to the surface because for so long he's been fighting to save others. His anger towards Geto, dividing his strength to protect bystanders, or going to fight Mahoraga and Agito. Every single time, his strength is used for someone else, but just this once he fought for himself. He treated his mission in the Culling Games as another job to save the world. He's encased his heart in ice because of what he needs to do. Sympathy or mercy could not exist in him to play his role as one of the world's strongest sorcerers and a prospect for the strongest in the world. But this fight offers him a possible future where he can enjoy battle to his heart's content. Despite each's aggressive approach, Yuta genuinely tries to understand each of them regardless of how irrational they may be, and even tries to understand them after they've attacked him. It's a moment that cements the confidence he possesses in both his strength and wish to go about things more peacefully if possible. For Kururushi, he tries to understand why a monster like him kills. He asks Uro why she only fights for herself, and Ryu has an unspoken thirst for fulfillment through unparalleled strength. Each answer is enveloped in selfish indulgence, the taste of iron, resolving regret, and finding dessert in life. Every one of them is a person with self-interest at their core. No loved ones or friends, only themselves. It's this idea of single-mindedness Yuta could never understand because he's always wanted people to be beside him, but his early life prevented him from that because of his ties with Rika. Uro is the past self, Kururushi is the present control, and Ryu is the future power. These battles are a show of force, who Yuta is, and his capabilities to take on the nastiest, most powerful, and tricky fighters of the previous generations, regardless of their numbers. In the aftermath, Uro speaks to Yuta about his reluctance to kill and how it limits him. This leads to Yuta's thoughts on the matter, further defining his character. Amongst the wreckage and injuries he sustained, he just talks with Ryu and says he is blessed. What makes this scene so pivotal is the fact that Yuta in and of himself serves as an antithesis to the typical Jujutsu sorcerer philosophy. His power is not solely self-motivated, and he cares deeply about others. He wants to protect, save, and remove the weight off of other people's shoulders. This type of mindset is shown to be punished severely before, but Yuta has only been rewarded because amongst his selfless behavior, he is selfish. His choice to go to the afterlife with Rika, his quest to gain 400 points alone, his inability to understand Uro, and his subsequent rebuttal to her assertion of his limit. Yuta Okkotsu is the perfect mixture of selfless and selfish. He is not blessed only because of his large pool of cursed energy and Rika. He is blessed through his ability to mix two opposing mindsets to become an effective sorcerer. Mindset and strength. He could not understand someone like Uro due in part to this, and why Ryu and Uro could not understand him. Okkotsu is the definition of Gojo's statement of a sorcerer's skill coming from 80% innate talent. Much like Gojo, he epitomizes this. A special grade in his first introduction, and regained the status after what he lost in such a short time. Traveling forward a bit, Yuta's murder of Kenjaku is important, but not so much that it changes or says more about his character, except emphasizes how he will follow through on his word. Although with what can be assumed to be his inevitable clash with Sukuna, he may become the true successor to Satoru Gojo, but that remains to be seen. Yuta Okkotsu went from a dependent, troubled, and weak young man to an independent, kind, and strong Jujutsu sorcerer. He cares for others and shoulders the struggles they do. He fights to benefit the world and bring it to peace. Yuta Okkotsu may have been a cursed child, but he's grown into a truly blessed adult.